Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the DFO Fantasy Show. It is Thursday, November the 5th. I hope everyone's having a fine Thursday afternoon or evening if you're catching this later in the day. We've got a 9-game slate on our hands on this Thursday, and then obviously we've got the weekend coming up, so we're going to have the Week 5 weekend streaming targets later in the show. Before we get to that, let's get to the news and notes for November the 5th. And we'll start with Alex Ovechkin, made NHL history as the first player to reach 900 goals last night, as you see here in the video. Did it in typical Alexander Ovechkin fashion. Next, we have Macklin Celebrini. He had a 3-point night last night and became the fifth fastest player, tied for the fifth fastest player in NHL history to reach 20 points in a season as a teenager. He also tied Connor McDavid for the league lead in points. So Celebrini off to just an unbelievable start. Fifth fastest teenager to reach 20 points in a season. Good for him. Now let's get to some injury news. We've got Kendrick Miller. He practiced on Wednesday. He's hopeful to return to the Hurricanes lineup on Thursday. It's a blue line that's been incredibly banged up. With Shane Gostisbehere on the shelf, potentially for an extended period of time. Miller was the one who initially replaced him on Power Play 1. Could do so again upon his return to the lineup. So Kendrick Miller, big boost to the Hurricanes blue line. Then we've got a couple of Pittsburgh Penguins updates. We talked about him a little bit yesterday, but Tristan Jarry is expected to miss 3 weeks with a lower body injury, and Justin Brazeau is expected to miss 4 weeks with an upper body injury. So we talked about Sergei Murashov as a potential timeshare goalie here with Artur Silovs moving forward in Pittsburgh. We'll see if that ends up being the case and see who ends up getting the start on Thursday. They were a little non-committal about what his workload might be, but shall see. I imagine Silovs starts Thursday, but again, he might not even get the start by the time this episode is released. So Yari out 3 weeks with a lower body injury. Now let's get to Brock's lock of the day. Unfortunately for us yesterday, a loss. Sam Rinzel, I believe, had 0 shots on goal. So that is, not what we were looking for when we were looking for over 2.5. There's a lot of decent options yesterday. We've managed to find the one that didn't work out. But that brings us to 7-5 on the season, still a plus 10.5% ROI on the year. So still pretty good results thus far. Let's get to today's Brock's Lock of the Day. And as always, the Brock's Lock of the Day is powered by our friends at 5v5 Hockey. They got a great prop model over there. They also offer a 7-day free trial if you want to check out 5v5hockey.com. Get that 7-day free trial. Start playing around with some of these props. Tonight, we're going to go with a 99 score here. Much like we did last night, did not work out. But tonight we're going to go with Brandon Hagel. So Brandon Hagel over 2.5 shots on goal is currently paying out plus 105. So pretty good value here. The value is probably baked in because the matchup is certainly not great against the Vegas Golden Knights, but they do give up the 17th most shot attempts in the NHL. So about middle of the pack, despite only giving up the 26th most shots against. So, allowing a lot of shots from the outside, a lot of those missing the net, but still giving up the 17th most shot attempts. So it's not maybe the worst matchup possible. And Hagel has hit this mark in 8 of his last 10 games while averaging 3.2 shots on goal per game and a whopping 6.8 shot attempts. So he's firing the puck a ton right now, and he's been playing just absolutely massive minutes on the Lightning's top line, averaging over 23 minutes per game in his last 4 games. So with that kind of usage, I think he should be able to continue firing 6-7 shot attempts on net and hopefully get at least 3 of them on goal despite a below average matchup this evening. So Brock's Lock of the Day, Brandon Hagel over 2.5 shots on goal at plus 105. Now let's get to our weekend streaming segment. As always, we've got the strength of schedule tool at dailyfaceoff.com. So you can updates as the week goes on. We have it currently ordered by the best opponent rating and who has the most light night. So we can target the teams that play on Friday and on Sunday. We got 4 games Friday, 8 games on Sunday. So we've got a total of 5 teams that have the Friday-Sunday schedule, which is perfect for the weekend streamers. So we're going to go in order of opponent rating, which means we're going to start with the Winnipeg Jets, who play the San Jose Sharks on Friday and then in Anaheim on Sunday. So 2 really nice matchups for the Jets. There really aren't many options in Winnipeg, though. That's kind of the issue. The top line is the only one doing any scoring right now. They're doing it both at 5v5 and on the power play. So Unfortunately, I think the options here in Winnipeg are pretty limited. I think the best you'll be able to do is that second line with the trio of Vladislav Nemestikov, who's 2% rostered, Jonathan Taves at 6%, and Alex Iafallo at 3%. So they're widely available without question. The problem is Iafallo is probably the one that's best positioned to do something this week, given his spot on this top power play unit, as you see here, alongside Velarde, Scheifele, Morrissey, and Kyle Connor. The problem is he hasn't done much. He's done very little with that position thus far. Just 1 goal, 1 assist in his last 8 games. And then for Jonathan Taves, he's on that second power play unit. After being held pointless in his first 2 games, Taves has picked up points in his last, 7 points in his last 11 games. But there's just absolutely no floor to speak of whatsoever right now with Jonathan Taves averaging under 2 shots on goal per game right now. So not really a lot of floor here for Taves, but the point production's been okay. Nemestikov's actually been the hottest of the bunch. He has 4 goals in his last 6 games while averaging 2.5 shots on goal per game. So he's been kind of the hottest of the bunch here in Winnipeg, outside of that top line, of course. And then, as always, you can take a look at Nino Niederreiter on the third line as well. The third line should be much better now with Adam Lowry back in the fold. Nino usually offers a decent floor in extended formats. In his last 11 games, he has 8 points while averaging 1.5 shots on goal, 1.5 hits per game. But that isn't even his typical floor. He's usually north of 2 shots per game and offers a little bit more hit volume than that. But with as good of a matchups as they've got coming up this weekend in San Jose and in Anaheim, I think that the Jets can pay off. It's just the actual quality of the streamers, it does not match the quality of the schedule, unfortunately, for them. So let's get back to the strength of schedule now. We've got the Calgary Flames coming up with the second best strength of schedule this weekend. They will play the Blackhawks on Friday, and then they are in Minnesota on Saturday. Unlike the Jets, the Flames have just plenty of options to consider this week. And my favorite is definitely Jonathan Huberdeau at 35% rostered. So chances of being available a little bit slimmer than maybe some of these other names that we're going to get to. But the Flames offense was just absolutely awful early in the season, but has definitely perked up a little bit since Huberdeau returned to the lineup. Not really that surprising. With the offense getting better following his return, he's playing pretty well. He's riding a 6-game point streak right now with 7 points, 3 goals, 4 assists during that time. After Huberdeau, the next best options would be his line mates. We got Matt Coronado at 10% and Morgan Frost at 6%. The reason that they are the next best options is because, well, they're playing with the hottest flame of them all, Jonathan Huberdeau, but they're also on that top power play unit with Huberdeau, with Kadri, and with Rasmus Anderson. So Coronado seems to have put that healthy scratch behind him. He's picked up 1 goal, 2 assists in his last 4. Shot volume not quite where it usually is. I'd like to see that return, but we only need him in the short term here, 2-game samples. If we can get that shot volume going, he's on that top power play unit. I think he can find the score sheet this weekend as well. And then Frost, he's seen an uptick in usage lately. He was playing on the top line with Kadri on the wing, shifted back to center. That line looks pretty good with Coronado, Frost, and Huberdeau. He's been okay. 4 points in his last 6 games while averaging a pretty healthy 2.2 shots on goal per game. If those guys aren't available to you, or they don't tickle your fancy, or you're in a banger format where he's somehow still available, Blake Coleman would be your best banger league target. He has 4 goals in his last 7 games and has a really nice floor, 3.1 shots on goal per game and 1.7 hits per game. I don't mind getting some Blake Coleman in the mix this weekend. And then obviously in the deepest of leagues, you can look at Joel Farabee and Connor Zary, who are skating on the top line with Nazem Kadri, but I don't think you need to go past Frost and Coronado. To be totally honest, both those guys should be available in your formats. And if they're not, I would probably look at some of these other teams to target. Let's get to the third team on the strength of schedule this week, and that is the Minnesota Wild. They have the Islanders on Long Island on Friday, and then obviously they play the Flames at home on the weekend. Also, if you have a roster spot, the Wild might make sense to pick up tonight because they have 3 games remaining this week in Carolina on Thursday. Not the best matchup, but you can get 3 games for the price of 1 here instead of just the 2-game weekend schedule. So with only 9 games on Thursday, I imagine you'll have a roster spot open to include that third game from the Minnesota Wild. So they're probably the most interesting of the targets this weekend. Let's get into their streaming candidates. We've got a decent amount. They're not amazing, but they're pretty good. I would start with Marcus Johansson. he's been just running red hot on that top line. And I almost recommended him as a waiver candidate on Wednesday's show. The problem is the underlying metrics aren't amazing for that line, so I don't think it's really he's really a long-term option, but I don't mind him here in the short term while he's playing with Kaprizov. The one thing that's always held Marcus Johansson back is a lack of shot volume, and it's honestly been as good as it's probably ever been for Mojo. So again, I don't know if this production is sustainable long term, but he has been a great option as of late, just playing tremendously well in that top line. So then obviously, if Mojo's not available or you feel a little bit stronger about Marco Rossi, he's also available. The problem is he's up to 33% roster, so the chances of him being available are much slimmer. So Mojo's probably the one you're going to have to go to. And if you prefer Vladimir Tarasenko, he's also only owned in 8% of leagues right now. He's probably the next best option. He's on the line, as you can see here, with Eriksson and Boldy. And he's also on the top power play unit. And that's where he's really thrived this year. I think mostly due to the fact the Wild have not been a very good 5v5 club. They've really relied on that power play to get them by. But Tarasenko's been solid. He's got 9 points in 14 games, but 6 of those 9 points has come on the man advantage. So he can definitely chip in that regard. If your league has a category for power play points or bonus points for power play points, Tarasenko can help there a little bit more than maybe Mojo can. Mojo probably got the little bit more sustainable 5v5 production at the moment. They got some decent blue line options as well. Brock Faber's available in 50% of leagues. He's been scorching hot. So if you want to add a blue liner that's going to have 3 games this weekend, Brock Faber, if he's still out there in 50% of leagues, makes sense. And then Jared Spurgeon, obviously, on that top power play unit, a little bit more readily available than Faber. Let's get back to the strength of schedule where we find the Detroit Red Wings, the number 4 team here with Friday, Sunday schedule. They got the Rangers on Friday, which that's on home ice, which is where you don't want to play the Rangers right now. You want to play in Madison Square Garden because they cannot get anything going on home ice. And then they've got the Blackhawks, really nice matchup on Sunday. So the Red Wings positioned pretty nicely for a pretty good weekend this weekend. The problem is the streaming options are extremely limited in Detroit right now. The best you could probably do is Emmett Finney or Marco Kasper. We'll start with Kasper, who's the lower owned of the two at 14%. He's really just struggled to find the score sheet with any regularity. Just 2 goals and no assists in his last 12 games. But I think there's still signs of better days ahead here for Kasper. His shot volume has started to perk up. It was really bad to start the season. He's averaging 2.6 shots and 2.7 hits per game in his last 7 games. So we always talk about Kasper being a solid banger league option. Banger formats are really the only reason he's even still rostered in 14% of leagues, but 2.6 shots on goal and 2.7 hits per game in his last 7 offer a pretty nice floor. So he's definitely a better stream now than he was 2 weeks ago. And I've said it about him a couple times on this show. The underlying metrics are still really strong. He's just getting terribly unlucky, and you don't need to look any further than a 33% IPP. So that means of all the goals he's been on the ice for so far this season, he's only factored in on 33% of them. I think he's been on the ice for 9 goals so far this season and only factoring in on 33% of them, giving 2 goals and 1 assist. So not great, but better days I think are certainly ahead if these underlying metrics continue. And with the nice matchups this weekend, I think that Kasper can certainly find the score sheet. Emmett Finney is at 24%, obviously a really good option as well. And on that top line with Dylan Larkin and Lucas Raymond. The Calder hype train has been derailed a little bit here lately. You probably won't get that joke unless you're on Red Wings Twitter. The hype train and the Calder train was in full effect. Obviously, a little bit tongue in cheek there, but he's gone pointless in his last 5 games. But he's still earning absolutely humongous minutes on that Red Wings top line. He's averaged north of 20 minutes per game in his last 4. It's really hard to find that level of volume or usage, in a streamer. So I would look at Kasper. I would look at Finney as 2 pretty good options from the Detroit Red Wings right now. Now let's get to the strength of schedule where we will find our 5th and final team of the week. We've got the Chicago Blackhawks traveling to Calgary on Friday and then to Detroit on Sunday. So again, 2 pretty decent matchups. None of these teams really drawing horrible matchups this weekend. The Red Wings have been a little bit stingier defensively. The Flames can be at times, but still they gave up north of 30 shots to the Blue Jackets last night. So I do think that these are decent matchups for the Blackhawks this weekend. The problem is I don't know how I feel about this Blackhawks offense still. They would definitely be the 5th pick of the 5 for sure. Connor Bedard's the only line, that top line, really generating great metrics in Chicago right now. So That means that Andre Burakovsky is probably my favorite target from the Blackhawks right now. He's 21% rostered. I talked to him about him at the start of the week being a good streaming candidate. He has 10 points, 5 goals, 5 assists in his last 12 games while averaging 18:36 time on ice per game. So again, the second line, their offensive metrics, we'll get to them in a second, have perked up a little bit. They've been much better than they were earlier this season when they were just downright awful. But the Bedard-Burakovsky duo have been really, really solid at 5v5. So I don't like Burakovsky long-term because the floor is almost non-existent. He's kind of weird where he'll have like huge shot volume games and then the next game he'll have nothing to show for it. So kind of all over the map in terms of a floor. But from a short-term streaming perspective, he's certainly a guy that can pick up some points this weekend playing with Connor Bedard. And then as I mentioned, the underlying metrics for that second line were just horrific to start the season, but they've been slowly improving. Frank Nazar is definitely the play driver on this line. He's been good. He's much higher owned. You're probably not going to be able to stream Nazar. If he's available, he would obviously be the best pickup for the Blackhawks. But I'm trying to focus on guys that are going to be available in a lot of leagues. So Nazar, obviously, top pickup from this team. If available, chances are super, super slim. So with these offensive metrics improving, Tyler Bertuzzi and Teuvo Teravainen have become more serviceable options. You obviously saw it last night with Tyler Bertuzzi, who I mentioned at the start of the week as being a good streamer. And if you ended up going with Bertuzzi over Burakovsky, you were paid off handsomely last night with a hat trick. He's now got 6 goals, 2 assists in his last 9 games, nearly a point per game player. He's also averaging close to 19 minutes per game during that stretch. He's been over 20 minutes a couple times recently. So the volume, the usage are there for Bertuzzi. He would be a strong candidate up there with Burakovsky as one of the top options this weekend. And then Teravainen, he just does very little with his ice time. So he would be towards the bottom of my streamer rankings this week. I would look at the other teams way before I pick up Teravainen. And he's definitely third among the order with Bertuzzi and Burakovsky ahead of him on the Blackhawks. And then obviously, you got Ryan Donato, who's been a solid contributor over the last calendar year. But of that third line, not seeing top power play unit time, I don't think there's really any reason to get there. So that's going to do it for this edition of the streaming schedule. But we are going to talk really quickly as we get back to the strength of schedule, because I do want to just highlight some of the players that have, or goalies, that have back-to-backs, because there's plenty of back-to-backs this weekend. We'll start just in order here. Carolina has Buffalo and Toronto. The problem is that their goalies aren't very widely available, so you're not going to be able to stream them there. The one that's probably the best overall is Casey DeSmith if he ends up seeing the start on Sunday against Seattle. Casey DeSmith will be the number 1 pickup on Sunday if he ends up making that start. So keep an eye on Casey DeSmith. For the Maple Leafs, Joseph Woll could return maybe this weekend. It hasn't really been solidified. I have no interest in spot starting Caden Primo, and even if it is Woll back, the matchup with the Hurricanes on Sunday is not ideal. Certainly not interested in streaming either Matt Murray or Philip Grubauer in Dallas on Sunday. Utah, Vanacek in Ottawa on Sunday, I think makes some sense. He would probably be the next in line behind Casey DeSmith for me. The Avalanche, obviously, Wedgwood and Blackwood, both very high owned, so chances of one of them being available in your formats are super limited. I don't think you want to stream Kevin Lankinen against the Avs on Sunday. Not a great matchup there. Ottawa, Levi Merrilainen against Utah, I think is okay. Certainly not great, but it's a reasonable option. The Ducks, probably going with Dostal in Vegas on Sunday, I would imagine. So, possibly Peter Mrazek Sunday versus the Jets, but I don't think that's one you really want to chase. Mrazek not playing great. And then, it all kind of depends on how the Penguins decide to roll these goalies out. I would imagine, again, Seeloss probably starts Thursday. We'll see if that ends up getting confirmed soon. And then, are they going to give Murashov a start this weekend? I would imagine so. Whether that's Sunday or Saturday, I don't know. But I feel better probably about Murashov than I do Seeloss at this point. If it's Murashov on Sunday against the Kings, I think that's a fine stream. The Kings, obviously, a pretty good team. Seeloss on Sunday would be fine too, but my 2 preferred options, definitely Casey DeSmith. If it's him on Sunday against Seattle, would be number 1. And then probably Vanacek in Ottawa as number 2. Murashov or Seeloss as number 3, and then Merrilainen against the Utah Mammoth as number 4. Those would be the order that I would stream them in. Obviously, if they get the start This weekend, it all depends on how all of these teams roll those starters out. The one thing I want to show you, if you aren't familiar with it, is we have these daily goalie rankings. So obviously, I'm not going to be around to make a video on Sunday to let you know who to start. But every day, if you click on the little numbers here, or if you go up to the top and under tools, we've got daily rankings tool. But going from the starting goalies page to the goalies ranking tool, we have them all ranked here. Best start to worst start. So whenever you're looking for a streaming candidate, you just go to this tool. We've got them all ordered here. We change them as they get confirmed or likely. So if you're looking for who the best start is this weekend on Sunday, look no further than the daily goalie rankings tool. Then obviously you can use it on a day-to-day basis. I can provide a write-up as well with the best streaming target. Kevin Lankinen did not work out last night, but be sure to check that tool out if you are streaming goalies this weekend. That is going to do it for this edition of the DFO Fantasy Show. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, smash the like button, hit the subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube. Help us grow this channel as we continue to expand our video platform. We were strictly an audio podcast for a long time. Still got a healthy number of listeners listening to the audio version. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. I really hope you're enjoying the new format, the shorter episodes, 4 days a week. I've really had a lot of fun doing these 20-minute episodes every day. So hopefully you're enjoying the content. Hopefully you're enjoying the new format. Again, if you're watching the video on YouTube, smash the like button, hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. I'm Brock Segan. Best of luck for the rest of week 5. We'll see you back here on Monday for week 6. Until then, cheers. Thanks for watching this video. If you want more great fantasy hockey and betting content from myself, Carter Hutton, Matthew Barnaby, and the rest of the DFO analysts, make sure you subscribe to the DFO Fantasy and Betting YouTube channel today and never miss a minute.